about this. So the question was just raised, why is it that it's become popular that girls have these collective bat mitzvahs and boys don't? So the simple answer is that for a boy, marking the bat mitzvah requires an aliyah to the Torah, which has to be done right after he turns bar mitzvah, the first opportunity, so that must be individualistic. Moreover, the putting on of tefillin, that becomes obligatory, and that happens when he turns 13. Again, that's his personal 13th birthday. Whereas, for a girl, there's no particular ritual. She becomes obligated to perform the mitzvahs, that's true, but there's no particular ritual or change. Everything she till now, she observed the Shabbos or kosher, for example, as a minor. Now she's going to start observing it as an adult because she's obligated, but there's no ritualistic change. She's now starting to do something she didn't do before. Whereas for the boy, there is. He couldn't get an aliyah before, now he's getting an aliyah. He wasn't obligated to put on film before, now he does. For that matter, his tzitzis as well. So there are rituals, changes that happen when a boy turns bar mitzvah and don't for a girl. Therefore, why not make a collective one? Now, on the surface, that would appear to convey the idea that, well, for a bar mitzvah, becoming of age for a boy is a bigger deal than it is for a girl. That's what it would appear to be. Certainly the fact that, again, in light of current custom, the boy has his individual big day and the girls have a collective day. To be perfectly frank, is there Frank here? No. So we'll be frank for a moment. In the old days, there was no ritual, no celebration at all, really, becoming bat mitzvah. That's pretty recent. She just became bat mitzvah, and there was virtually nothing.
My days never happened.
In your days, that would be true, and across the board. I mean, you need to say even very in observant, not observant, traditional bat mitzvahs. It's only in the last 100 years or so, and in the more modern quote unquote elements that bat mitzvah has become popular. So all of this would seem to point to that the woman, the girl, is less than the boy. The truth is, of course, it's the opposite, as we have explained at length many times. I'm not going to go into a whole long explanation now, but just to touch on the essence of the matter. And that is, as we always explain, that the difference between men and women is that men do and women are. All right? So men bond, connect through shared activities, pursuits, gains, scores, and women share themselves. That's how they bond, is sharing themselves. It's about being versus doing. As we've explained, being Jewish, exclusively the mother's contribution to the offspring. Performing Jewish, that's the father, which uniform, Kohen, Levi, Israelite, that's function. So being is mother and performing is father. A home is the mother because a home nurtures our being, not our performance. School is about performance, the schoolyard. But home you're loved not because you have produced or you will or you're talented. It's because you exist, that's all. It's unconditional, absolute. You are. You are my child. That's what a home needs to nurture. Not a place of demands. Of course, there is the element of upbringing and discipline, but essentially the essence of the home is a feminine, female womb. It's a womb where you are loved and nurtured because you exist. You're not giving anything. You don't even know who you are. Your gender, unless you take an ultrasound. It's unconditional. So that's the female in contrast to male. And that's why religiously as well as spiritually in their relationship with God, his is about rituals and performance. He does Jewish. She is Jewish. It's infinitely deeper. It's the core essence. It's being Jewish as opposed to performing Jewish. Now again, from the Torah perspective, the truth, there's no such thing as a man and a woman in terms of a man not being a woman not being a man. We're all multi. We're multi-sexual, we're actually a microcosm of the universe. We're everything. So every male has the female component and the female has the male component. A male is Jewish. And she has to also perform and do Jewish rituals. But we speak now of the essence, the core identity. They are different. Even within the male, there's the female within him that's different than the male, and within the female, the male that's different from her female. And the difference is being versus performance. So that explains this. For the guy becoming bar mitzvah, it's a big deal, because it's all about performance, and now you've got to start performing. You were not obligated before, and now you are. You couldn't have an aliyah before, now you get an aliyah, and that's how we celebrate your bar mitzvah, tefillin, and what have you. And it isn't a big deal for the girl, because it's about being, hey, it always was. Always was Jewish. And that's her essential identity, it's being Jewish. So the transition is very fluid. Okay, in terms of performance now, I've got the things that I was doing anyway, I've got to now do it because I'm obligated. It's a pretty subtle minor change. The core essence didn't change. I am. So I did it, I wasn't obligated, now I'm obligated. It's not a huge change. But if you look about the obligations themselves, that's a huge change. You weren't, now you are. So if you're looking at the performance only, it's a pretty radical change. If you look at the being, it isn't. So the non-fuss about a girl becoming bas mitzvah, although it is celebrated and should be, but what are we celebrating as being Jewish? That's what needs to come to the fore now. But that's traditionally, and in essence remains that way, why it's a different kind of celebration. And that will also explain, interestingly perhaps too, we might add to this, that when it comes to being Jewish, we're all the same. It's in performance that we differ. Although we all do the same mitzvahs, what we bring to bear to the mitzvahs are very, it's individualistic. One has more understanding, less feeling, more feeling. No one performs the same way. Thoughts are different, feelings, knowledge. But being, we're all Jewish equally. I am a Jew, you are a Jew, there's absolutely no difference. And the woman, the girl, since she embodies being Jewish, maybe that's why it's kind of become a collective thing, because yes, at being Jewish, we're all the same. The performance is different. So each boy has his own little performance, because no one does it the same way. By divine providence, it's, that's how it's happening, so there's good reason for that as well. Although in case of my children, this is also a pretty new thing in the Chabad world, these collective bat mitzvahs. I don't even know if they do it. We do it in MTC because everybody else does it. My children, my girls had their own little celebration at home with their friends. They would share a Torah. It was individualistic. But I'm saying the idea of having collective makes sense when we consider what does it mean bat mitzvah for a girl. There's no real change in essence, because she's about being Jewish. It's about the performances, which is not her thing. Her thing is much deeper than that, so it's not a huge, or certainly individualistic, as it is for the boy. Hope that was clear. Thank you for your question.
Women tend to share those things as a group in general, right? You were mentioning that.
Women share each other.
So
Yeah, women getting together.
With that.
Yeah, it's consistent. Yeah. This idea, a guy is a loner. In essence, he's a loner, and that's why he's competitive, because he's staking out his space, right? And everybody else has a threat potentially. So either can somehow use the other guy or defeat him. That's what it's about. Now the reason he's a loner, really, the core of that is because the first male was alone. Adam was born in the world alone. So ever since then, all men, are okay being alone. And then all of a sudden, Eve is there, and he goes, "Who's that? Like, what's this? Oh, well, that's Eve. That's your wife, your soulmate. What? And we're still trying to figure that out. But for Eve,
She was never alone.
never alone. She comes into being right from Adam, so sharing herself in marriage, and that's natural. And so, since we're on the subject, it emerges that men and women have different needs. He needs to be complimented for his performance. He's got to be validated for whether his performance is ritual, religious, scholarship, mitzvahs, money, sports, some kind of prowess, some kind of performance. That's how he defines himself. So he's talking about the things that he did or will do or will accomplish, the fish he caught or the fish that got away, or will catch. And so she needs to give that to him. She doesn't understand it. It doesn't come naturally to her. You do what you got to do. What's the big deal? But for him, if he takes the dishes off and cleans them and whatever and helps, he's got to be acknowledged. And for her, she doesn't expect acknowledgement for thank you for the dishes. What she wants is that she should be acknowledged. Again, in black and white, there's a crossover here. There's a profound pollination, but I'm separating the two. So what she needs to give him is validation, and what he needs to give her is that she's not alone. He's thinking of her. It doesn't come naturally to him. Middle of the day, pick up the phone, I love you. What's the purpose of that? She knows that. What's it going to achieve? He's about performance. He doesn't see what this accomplishes. Why do you think I'm at work for? It's up, because I love you. What do you, this has to be said? What's the point? Yes, it's all about sharing. That's what she needs from him. So at the end of the day, typically, he said, hard day at work, whatever. The last thing he wants to do is talk about what happened. Because what's the point? It happened. If talking about it, she'd give some advice about tomorrow, making it better, which he doesn't want to hear, mind you, necessarily, that she knows better than him. But let's say he's humble and is ready to take advice. Okay, but she's not going to give him, necessarily. So just to share what happened, what's the point? It happened, he wants to chill out, put his feet up and watch the game. And she wants to share everything that happened during the day. So marriage is each one meeting the other one's needs. That's the whole point of marriage, is that I connect to you and I fulfill your needs, and hopefully it's reciprocal. But that's what marriage is really the opportunity to transcend oneself and to connect to somebody else that's so different. That's how we truly become free and liberated, by transcending our own limitations and by connecting to somebody who is different. And the paradox is that different person is really my soulmate, that she completes me as I complete her. So I'm not being a martyr by fulfilling her needs. I'm really revealing the core of my being and becoming really whole, and likewise for her. So that's the male and female thing, a little bit. All right.
What disappoints me most
Yes.
is that we're in so many different sects. It discourages me so much that one sect will look down on the other sect. Sometimes they'll even. Levi was telling us a story yesterday where he got thrown out of a shul.
He got thrown out of a shul.
He was told to leave.
Because he's Chabad.
Yeah, because he's Chabad.
Yeah, well, that's true, but that's thank God changing. It's changing. That's probably years ago.
He's not that old.
Yeah. But no, we're living in a fast changing world, and in my own experience, and it's quite possible that wherever he went today, that wouldn't happen anymore. But thank God the walls are breaking down. Chabad was on the outside, of the religious world. Period. Not of everybody. The Lithuanian world, the Hasidic world, because of Chabad's fraternization with non-religious Jews. All religious Jews saw that as a threat to Jewish survival. Couldn't understand it. For them, a Jew that chose not to do mitzvahs is wicked. One should not fraternize with the wicked. And moreover, there's the danger of becoming influenced by them. So that was one thing. And then there's Hasidus, Chabad, this whole Kabbalah. The Hasidus is based on Kabbalah, esoteric, mystical. The traditional Jewish Orthodox Hasidic Lithuanian world did not study Torah like that, and this was all very new, and they found it to be, it just wasn't part of their culture or tradition, very foreign. Mysticism, Kabbalah, so that put Chabad on the pale on the outside as well. For many also, Chabad's association with Israel and Israeli leadership, deep involvement with Israeli leadership tainted Chabad as Zionist, which is a huge no-no in the Orthodox world. Secular Zionism is a kind of rejection of the Torah and everything else. So, for these reasons, justifiably, Chabad was
A threat also for them.
a bit of a threat too, because some of their best and brightest were becoming Chabad, so they don't like that either. But this is changing. This is changing rapidly, and one of the reasons, there's several reasons why it's changing, why the walls are coming down and there is a greater openness and acceptance. One of the main reasons is that the Chabad houses around the world, especially in Asia, or everywhere, Europe. Orthodox Hasidic businessmen traveling, China, wherever it is. Shabbos, where you're going to go? Have to go to Chabad. So for many, it's the first time they're really encountering Chabad close up. And they're seeing, sitting at the table are all kinds of Jews. And it's a profound awakening for them that a Jew is a Jew is a Jew. And they're seeing the work that Chabad does. And that has a huge influence in tearing down these walls. They come back, they tell their communities, and it's a global village there. People are traveling a lot, and people are seeing this all over. So the Chabad houses, incredibly, although they're primarily established to reach out to the Jews of that community who are not observant, they've also had a profound effect on the observant Torah world. An incredible effect, going there and seeing. So today, the Satmar Rebbe, there's two, but one of the Satmar Rebbes who spends his winters in Palm Springs, where does he daven? He davens in Chabad. He davens in the Chabad house. And the rabbi of the Chabad house is a wonderful rabbi. He himself doesn't come from an observant background. At least his parents don't, or he doesn't. And so, the whole thing is so powerful. Here is a Jew that was from a non-religious observant background. He's the rabbi, the long red beard.
Red Sox.
He's the Chabad rabbi there. Tenenbaum. And the Satmar Rebbe is davening there with his whole entourage. And there was a clip I can show you, if I can find it. This was a year or two ago. There was a Bar Mitzvah celebration of some kind, and the Satmar Rebbe is putting on tefillin on all of these non-religious boys. And that photograph, that image is revolutionary. On observant, wicked Jews, that whole language is dropped. These are people, like Chabad's been saying, they're not wicked, God forbid, they just didn't know better, and they're as Jewish as you and I are, and the teachings of Chabad about the soul and neshama become very popular. It's another reason that the teachings of Chabad Hasidus have infiltrated the whole Torah world, meaning to say, the mystical Kabbalistic dimension. So to illustrate this, the idea of the neshama, the soul, at the core we all have equally, which we speak about here endlessly. This is a revolutionary, quote unquote, core teaching of Chabad Hasidus. Now, without that teaching, Jews are viewed as 100%, 50%, 60%, zero. It's all based on performance. If you do, you're Jewish. If you don't do, you're not. That was the general attitude. And they would say that, he's like a non-Jew. Or is. Not like they'd say even is. You are a... But this teaching that the core essence being, that is infiltrated. Everybody talks about this now. So the embrace, therefore, the whole attitude towards non-observant Jews is changing across the board. A Jew is a Jew is a Jew. This has now become... And so therefore, the walls are coming down, this idea. These distinctions. Another core teaching of Chabad has become virtually embraced by the entire Torah world, is divine providence. Divine providence that affects the minutiae of life. That's a teaching that's only really taught by the Baal Shem Tov and Chabad Hasidus. It's always been in Torah, but hadn't been revealed yet. Now that changes everything too. Divine providence. If a Jew is where he is, it's meant to be, and for that matter, a non-Jew, God is everywhere in all things. The world's not the enemy. Hashem is in everything involved. They tend to be insular. The world's the enemy. We're here. These teachings teach the world is not the enemy. Hashem is involved intimately in everything. And everybody is where they're meant to be at this time, so now reach out in love and connect. It's also another, I can't elaborate now, but this teaching of divine providence is also, contributes to the dissolving of the barriers between Jew and Jew, and the need to insulate, isolate, to survive in the world being the enemy, and to resist and overcome. It's not the enemy. The purpose is to make the whole world a home for God. Chabad teachings go outwards, not inwards, to all embracing, which is the next teaching, the teaching of another core idea of Chabad Hasidus, a big revolution, that the purpose of life and everything of all of creation is not heaven, to reach heaven after death, which is temporary. It's true, there is, but the ultimate objective is, as you all know, you hear it every single day in the Chabad house, heaven on earth, to make this world a
Better place.
yes, in other words, a home for God. And all souls are destined to come back into the world. So again, the same idea, the body is not the enemy, the physical isn't the enemy, the world isn't the enemy. On the contrary, that's the objective, that Hashem's presence be revealed in the world, every part of it. So this idea of creating your own enclave, an ivory tower, that starts to crumble in the realization that it isn't about our little bastions of Torah and being impervious to the world. It's about illuminating the world. It's about making the whole world a home for God. The idea that there's a divine spark in all things, we need to elevate these all Kabbalistic ideas. And Chabad Hasidic teachings are becoming more and more popular, infiltrating, and even if they don't even know that what they're saying comes from Chabad, it does. So it's changing the attitude. Basically, it's changing the division. Is crumbling and coming down day by day. See, that's the wonderful news.
On our last oil trip,